What happens when a simple act of kindness turns into a life-changing moment? For Jasmine, a hard-working waitress at a small diner, it all started with a routine shift. But that night, when a man walked in wearing an oversized hoodie and glasses, everything changed. He wasn't just any regular customer. He was John Cena. Jasmine didn't recognize him at first. He wasn't wearing his wrestling persona, after all. But that didn't matter. She did what she always did, served him with kindness, a warm smile, and impeccable service. The diner was buzzing with activity, the clink of plates and the hum of conversation filling the air. Jasmine moved swiftly between tables, making small talk with regulars while making sure the orders came out just right. But when she approached John Cena's table, her demeanor shifted. She noticed something different about him. Maybe it was the quiet intensity in his eyes or the way he sat, almost as though he was lost in thought. He was clearly trying to enjoy a rare moment of normalcy, away from the spotlight that so often consumed him. She smiled and greeted him, but there was something about his hesitation that made her pause. It wasn't the usual small talk she had with customers. It was something deeper, like he needed a moment to just be himself. "What can I get you?" she asked gently. "I'll have a coffee black," he replied, his voice soft, almost unsure. Jasmine nodded and went to place the order. Something in her gut told her that this wasn't going to be just another night at work. Little did she know, she was about to get caught up in something much bigger than a simple coffee order. The next day, as she walked into work, Jasmine was greeted with an unexpected shock. Her manager, a stern-faced woman named Carla, called her into the back office. The door shut behind her, and Jasmine's stomach sank. The conversation started with the usual pleasantries, but it quickly turned cold. "Jasmine," Carla began, her tone sharp, "I've received a complaint about you." Jasmine's heart raced. A complaint? About what? Carla didn't mince words. "You were seen talking to a celebrity last night. John Cena, to be specific." Jasmine's brow furrowed. "I didn't do anything wrong. I just took his order and served him like any other customer." Carla shook her head. "You don't understand. You made him feel too comfortable. You weren't supposed to do that. You were supposed to keep your distance and treat him like any other customer, but you were too friendly." Jasmine was confused. She didn't understand what she had done wrong. She had treated him like a human being, as she did with every other person who walked through the diner's doors. But that kindness, that simple act of recognizing someone as just another person, had led to her firing. "Jasmine, I'm afraid you're going to have to leave," Carla said, the words slicing through the air. Her mind was spinning. She had just been fired for something she didn't even understand. She left the office in a daze, the weight of the situation pressing down on her chest. The diner, which had always been a source of comfort for her, now felt foreign and cold. She walked out the door, unsure of what was coming next. The shock didn't end there. Just as she was about to step out into the parking lot, her phone buzzed. It was a notification. A video was going viral, and her face was plastered all over it. The video showed her speaking with John Cena at the diner. It wasn't just a regular interaction. It was a moment captured perfectly, showcasing her kindness and genuine care. The video had been taken by another customer, and within hours, it had gained millions of views. But the viral attention wasn't the part that caught her off guard. It was the comment section. People were praising her for being real, for treating Cena like a human being, not a celebrity. "Wait, what?" Jasmine muttered under her breath. How could a video of her just doing her job get this kind of reaction? It seemed like the world was suddenly paying attention, and all she did was smile and serve coffee. But the real shock came when, the very next day, a familiar figure appeared in front of her. She hadn't expected to see him again. But there he was, John Cena himself, standing outside her apartment. "I saw what happened," he said, his voice calm yet firm. "And I think you deserve better than this." Jasmine was taken aback, her mind racing to process everything. "What are you talking about?" she asked, still reeling from the events of the past 24 hours. "I know what they did to you," Cena continued, "and it's not right. I want to help you. You're better than this, Jasmine. I owe you." Jasmine's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't what she had expected at all. She had just been doing her job, and now she was standing in front of one of the biggest stars in the world, and he was offering to help her? The shock, the disbelief. It was almost too much to take in. "What do you mean? How could you possibly help me?" she asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. John smiled, a warm, reassuring smile. "I know people, and I can make sure this doesn't go unnoticed. You're about to get the shock of your life, Jasmine. Trust me." As he walked away, leaving her standing there with her mind racing, Jasmine couldn't help but wonder, what had she just gotten herself into? Was this the beginning of something that would change her life forever, or was it just another twist in the unpredictable roller coaster of fate? The next chapter of her story was about to unfold, and she had no idea how big it would get. The video quickly gained traction, spreading across social media platforms like wildfire. Jasmine couldn't believe her eyes when she saw it. There she was, smiling and chatting with John Cena, as if they were old friends. But there was something strange about the way it was framed. The video was edited in a way that made it seem more intimate than it actually was. People in the comments were speculating wildly. Some praised her for her warm interaction, while others labeled her as unprofessional, even insinuating that she was taking advantage of the moment for attention. Jasmine stared at her phone, her heart pounding in her chest. She had only done what any decent person would do, treat someone like a human being. The next few hours were a blur. Her phone kept buzzing with messages from friends, family, and even strangers. Most of them were supportive, asking if she was okay, but there were some who criticized her, claiming that she had crossed a line. The fact that she had been fired so abruptly made it worse. It felt like the entire world was watching her, and yet she was completely alone. She had no idea how to handle this sudden wave of attention, much less the fallout from losing her job. As the day wore on, the pressure began to mount. Jasmine felt like she was living in a nightmare. She sat in her small apartment, scrolling through the endless comments, her mind racing. How had things spiraled out of control so quickly? All she had done was show kindness to someone who might have needed it. Why was that such a crime? Was it because of who he was? Was she being punished for simply being herself? But then, something unexpected happened. A message popped up in her inbox from an unfamiliar name. "I need to speak with you. It's important." Jasmine hesitated for a moment, then opened the message. It was from a PR agent who worked for none other than John Cena. The message was simple, but it sent a chill down her spine. "John wants to speak with you. He's seen what happened, and he feels responsible. He wants to make things right." Jasmine could hardly believe her eyes. Why would John Cena, of all people, want to speak to her? Was this some kind of joke? Her fingers trembled as she typed a response, agreeing to meet him. It felt surreal, like she was living in a dream. What was going to happen next? How could this situation possibly turn into something positive? She had so many questions, but she also felt a strange sense of hope. Maybe this wasn't the end. Maybe, just maybe, this could be a new beginning. The next day, Jasmine found herself standing outside a luxurious hotel, her nerves almost overwhelming. She had been given strict instructions to meet John in a private room, away from prying eyes. The hotel lobby was grand and filled with a kind of quiet elegance that made her feel out of place. She checked her phone one last time, confirming the room number before taking a deep breath and walking toward the elevator. The doors opened, and she stepped into a sleek, polished space. Everything felt too perfect. Jasmine wasn't used to this world, the world of celebrities, luxury, and public scrutiny. She had always kept her head down, worked hard, and stayed out of the spotlight. But now, she found herself walking into a situation she couldn't have predicted. When she finally reached the room, John Cena was waiting. He stood by the window, looking out over the city skyline, his back to her. He turned as she entered, and for the first time, Jasmine saw him not as the larger-than-life celebrity, but as a man who, like her, was just trying to navigate the complexities of life. He wasn't wearing his usual wrestling attire or his public persona. Instead, he was dressed casually, but there was something about his presence that made the room feel even more intense. "Jasmine, I'm sorry about what happened," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I saw the video, and I know things got out of hand. It wasn't supposed to go this way." She blinked, still trying to process the fact that she was standing in front of him, hearing these words. She hadn't expected an apology, certainly not from someone like him. "I don't understand," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "All I did was talk to you. I treated you like anyone else. Why is that such a big deal?" John took a step closer, his expression softening. "Because people don't like it when things don't fit their narrative. They want celebrities to be untouchable, unreachable. And when someone like you, someone real, comes in and shows kindness, it messes with their expectations. It's easier to tear you down than to see the truth." Jasmine felt a lump form in her throat. She had never thought of it like that before. She had always assumed the world was filled with more good than bad, but now she wasn't so sure. It felt like everything she had worked for, everything she had believed in, was slipping away. "I want to make things right," John continued. "I know I can't undo what happened, but I can help. This story, your story, doesn't have to end here. You deserve better than what you've been handed." Jasmine's eyes welled up, and she couldn't hold back the tears anymore. She had been so angry, so confused, and yet here he was, offering her a chance to start over. "But how?" she whispered. John smiled, a genuine, comforting smile. "I've got a plan. You're going to be just fine. But first, we need to set the record straight. The world needs to see you for who you really are, just a good person trying to do the right thing." And just like that, Jasmine's world began to shift. What started as a simple act of kindness, an innocent gesture, had turned into something much more. The shock of being fired, the public scrutiny, and the pain, all of it seemed to pale in comparison to the opportunity that was now in front of her. She was no longer just a waitress. She was someone with a story, someone whose life was about to take a dramatic turn. It wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Famous wrestling gear or movie star persona. He was just a man in a casual shirt and jeans, his expression calm but with an unmistakable weight in his eyes. As she stepped into the room, he turned toward her, offering a gentle smile. It was nothing like the bold, larger-than-life presence he exuded on screen, but there was something equally powerful in the way he looked at her. There was a quiet intensity, as if he understood the burden of what she had just gone through. "Jasmine," he said, his voice low but warm, "thank you for agreeing to meet with me." She wasn't sure what to expect. A part of her wanted to demand answers. Why had this all happened? Why did he feel the need to reach out to her? But instead, she found herself simply nodding. "I didn't know what to expect from all this. I still don't." but thank you for, well, reaching out." John's expression softened. "I saw the video, and I saw how things got twisted. It wasn't fair. You didn't deserve any of that. I should have spoken up sooner, but I've been caught up in the chaos of everything." He paused, looking a bit lost in thought. "I owe you an apology, and I want to make it right." Jasmine's heart skipped a beat. She didn't know what to say. She had been expecting an apology, sure, but hearing it from him, someone she'd never imagined would even know her name, caught her off guard. "But why me? Why now?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Why get involved with all this?" John sighed, stepping closer to the window as if gathering his thoughts. "Because I saw something in that video. You weren't trying to get attention or take advantage of the situation. You were just being kind. And that's rare in my world, Jasmine. Too often, people only see me for what they want me to be, not who I really am. I saw the real you in that moment, and I felt like, I don't know, maybe I could help." Jasmine couldn't believe what she was hearing. This man, this global icon, was telling her that her simple kindness had made an impact on him? It didn't make sense. It wasn't supposed to be like this. "But I've lost my job because of all this. People think I did something wrong, and I still don't get why it all blew up the way it did." He turned back toward her, his gaze steady. "I know, and it's not fair, but that's why I want to help. Let me help you, Jasmine. Let's set the record straight. I've got the resources, and we can do this together. I'll stand by you, whatever you need." For a long moment, Jasmine didn't say anything. She could feel the weight of the decision settling in her chest. Was she really going to accept help from John Cena? Someone who was practically a stranger? But then she realized this wasn't about him. This was about her, and the chance to take control of her own narrative. Maybe it was time to stop letting others define her story. Maybe it was time to stand up for herself. After a long pause, Jasmine finally spoke, her voice steady but with a hint of vulnerability. "Okay, let's do it. Let's set the record straight." John smiled, his face lighting up with an expression that almost felt like a promise. "We'll get through this. Together." Over the next few days, Jasmine and John worked together behind the scenes. The PR team John had brought in was quick to react, pushing out a public statement, clearing the air about the interaction between the two of them. They released a video of John explaining that Jasmine's actions had been nothing but professional and kind, and that he had been the one to approach her. He made sure the message was loud and clear. There was no scandal here, just a simple moment of human connection. It didn't happen overnight, but slowly things began to change. The public perception shifted. People started to rally around Jasmine. The video, originally filled with skepticism, now became a symbol of kindness, of someone simply doing the right thing. People admired her for staying true to herself, for standing up when everything seemed to be falling apart. But even more unexpected was what came next. As the PR push continued, Jasmine received an unexpected offer, a job at a new, upscale restaurant. It wasn't just any job. This restaurant had a reputation for being selective, for hiring only the best. The owner, after seeing the public reaction, had decided to offer her a position. The catch: the restaurant was famous for being known as a place for celebrities and high-profile figures to dine in private. Jasmine couldn't believe it. She had gone from being fired for a simple act of kindness to being offered the chance of a lifetime. She accepted the offer without hesitation. Things were starting to look up, but more than that, Jasmine felt something change inside herself. She had been pushed to her limit, but now she was standing tall. And as she began this new chapter, she realized that sometimes the biggest challenges in life lead to the most unexpected rewards. But as she sat in her new uniform on her first day at the upscale restaurant, she couldn't shake the feeling that things were far from over. No, the real journey was just beginning. Strategic statement clarifying the truth of what had happened. They released a video, one where John Cena himself addressed the incident and spoke about the importance of kindness and respect, highlighting how Jasmine had done nothing but treat him with the same courtesy she would give anyone else. The video spread quickly, but this time the narrative was in her favor. It was a far cry from the sensationalized version that had gone viral before. This time, people saw the full picture. But Jasmine didn't feel like a hero. As much as she appreciated the support, she still couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She'd gotten the apology, she'd gotten the public statement, but the feeling of being unfairly targeted still lingered. It wasn't enough to erase the sting of losing her job or the judgmental looks she'd received from strangers and acquaintances alike. She'd been a victim of the system, and while the world now knew she hadn't done anything wrong, it didn't fix the way her life had been turned upside down. A few days after the video had been posted, John reached out to her again. "Hey, Jasmine, how are you holding up?" he asked, his voice coming through on her phone. She sat back on her couch, staring out the window, the evening sun casting a warm glow across her living room. "I'm okay, I guess. I'm just trying to figure things out, you know." John's tone softened. "I get it. I've been there. The whole world thinks they know your story, but they don't. They don't see what happens behind the scenes. But I want you to know something. You're not alone in this. I'm here for you. Whatever you need, I'll do what I can to help." Jasmine swallowed, fighting back the emotions that were threatening to spill over. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear those words, especially coming from him. "I don't know what I would have done without your help. This whole thing has been a nightmare, and I've felt so alone. But knowing you've got my back, it means a lot." There was a brief silence before John spoke again. "Listen, Jasmine, I've got an idea. Something that might help turn this whole thing around. How about we team up and do something good with this? Use the attention to create something positive. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I think we can make something powerful out of all this mess." She hesitated, unsure of what he meant. "What do you mean? What are you thinking?" "I've been working with a few charities, and I think we can do something together. Raise awareness, give back to the community, help people who are struggling like you did. We could show the world what real kindness looks like, and how one small act can change everything." Jasmine's heart swelled as she listened to him. He wasn't just offering her a way out of this mess. He was offering her a chance to do something that mattered, a chance to turn her pain into something meaningful, to help others who had been overlooked or treated unfairly. Maybe this was what she had been waiting for all along. "I like that idea," she said, a smile creeping onto her face. "I like it a lot. Let's do it." And so, together, they began planning their next steps. The charity work started small, visits to local shelters, handing out food, and speaking to people who had faced hardships similar to Jasmine's. They worked with organizations that helped empower women, particularly women of color, and Jasmine found herself connecting with others in a way she hadn't anticipated. It was more than just giving back. It was a way to heal, to take control of her story, and to show the world that kindness could make a difference. As the weeks passed, their initiative began to gain momentum. The media, once obsessed with the controversy, shifted focus toward their efforts. News outlets started covering the charity events, shining a light on their work and the positive change they were creating. Jasmine's reputation, once tainted by the scandal, was now being transformed. People saw her for who she truly was, someone who had the courage to rise above the drama and turn it into something beautiful. And John. He was there every step of the way, not as a celebrity, but as a partner in this journey. He didn't just show up to take the credit. He worked hard, side by side with Jasmine, proving that his support wasn't just a publicity stunt, but a genuine desire to make the world a better place. Through it all, Jasmine realized that the shock of her life wasn't just the moment she lost her job. It was the moment she found her purpose. What had started as a mistake, an unfair situation, had turned into something greater than she could have ever imagined. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was a voice for change, a symbol of resilience. And with that, Jasmine knew her life would never be the same again. From the inside out. As she spoke with the women, heard their stories, and realized how much they had in common, Jasmine started to feel a sense of purpose she had never known before. These women, some of whom had faced rejection, abuse, or simply the weight of a world that overlooked them, were not so different from her. They had been pushed down, judged unfairly, and yet they stood strong, just like she was starting to. It was as if all the pain and frustration of the past few weeks were being channeled into something meaningful, something that mattered. Each day, Jasmine became more invested in the work they were doing. Whether it was handing out food at a shelter or organizing a charity event to raise awareness about domestic violence, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She was no longer just the waitress who got fired for being kind to a celebrity. She was a woman with a voice, a platform, and the ability to make a real difference. John's presence in her life became more of a source of strength than she could have ever expected. They had become more than just partners in this project. They had become friends. There was an understanding between them, a bond that neither of them had anticipated when they first met. John's fame and resources opened doors, but it was Jasmine's heart and authenticity that truly connected with people. It was clear to her now that what had happened to her, the firing, the online backlash, wasn't the end of her story. It was just the beginning. But as things started to settle into a rhythm, Jasmine received a message that knocked the wind out of her. It was from her old boss at the diner, the one who had fired her after the John Cena incident. The message was brief but heavy with implications. "We've made a mistake. We want you back." For a moment, Jasmine stared at the message in disbelief. How could they reach out now, after everything? After they had let her go so easily? After they had never bothered to stand up for her in the first place? She could feel the anger rising in her chest. Why now? Was it because the public image was turning in her favor? Was it because they saw the attention John's involvement had brought her? She wasn't sure how to feel. On one hand, the offer was tempting. She could go back to a familiar routine, back to the safety of the job she had known. On the other hand, she realized something. She didn't need that job. She didn't need their validation or their apology. She had found something far more meaningful. She had found her voice, her purpose, and a community of people who saw her for who she truly was. Jasmine called John, needing to hear his thoughts. She had no idea what to do. "I just got this message from my old job," she said, her voice uncertain. "They want me back. They say they made a mistake." John paused on the other end of the line, his voice thoughtful. "What do you want, Jasmine?" She sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the question hanging in the air. What did she want? She had spent so long seeking approval from others, wondering if she was doing the right thing. But now, she knew the answer. She wanted to keep moving forward, to keep doing good in the world, to keep fighting for the causes that mattered to her. Going back to that job wouldn't change what had happened. It wouldn't erase the pain. It wouldn't give her what she had found in herself. "I want to keep moving forward," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I want to keep making a difference. I don't need their approval anymore. I've found something better." John's voice was filled with pride as he responded. "You've come a long way, Jasmine. I'm proud of you." And whatever you decide, I've got your back." With that, Jasmine made her decision. She sent a reply to her old boss, politely declining the offer. She knew that leaving the past behind was the only way to fully embrace the future. The journey wasn't going to be easy, but she wasn't afraid anymore. She had a purpose now, a purpose that came from within her and wasn't reliant on anyone else's approval. In the months that followed, Jasmine's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. The charity work continued to grow, and she was invited to speak at events, sharing her story of resilience and self-discovery. Her journey was a reminder to everyone around her that sometimes the hardest experiences lead to the most profound growth. What had started as an ordeal had blossomed into something beautiful, something powerful. Jasmine no longer felt like a victim. She wasn't just the waitress who had been fired for helping someone. She was a woman who had found her strength in the face of adversity, and now she was helping others do the same. And in that, she found her true calling. As the sun set one evening, casting a warm golden light over the city, Jasmine stood at the front of a crowded auditorium, looking out at the faces of people who had come to hear her story. She had made it. She had taken the pain and the injustice and turned it into something meaningful. And as she stepped up to the podium to speak, she knew one thing for certain. Her story wasn't over. In fact, it had only just begun.